11
11 o'clock.
a.m.
Okay, and Paul, it's with you 8 o'clock or
Yes.
8 o'clock in the morning, right? So we see people are still coming in to attend the lecture. So let's wait a few minutes before I would like to open the session with you, Bengt. Just a few minutes.
Roland, can I make one quick observation about the time?
What do you want?
Can I make a quick observation? Because we are still in summertime. So unlike Sweden, Central European will change in 27th of October. So we will have another.
Oh, that's
we will
okay.
have another
That's the
confusion.
reason.
Yes.
Okay.
There are online tools that let you tell what the time zones are at any given date so that you can be sure that the time is correct. So when we announce meetings, we should be announcing the actual correct time for various time zones throughout the world, because the change from summer to winter time is different in many different places.
Yeah.
Thank you for the tip,
Oh,
David.
then we know the reason why. That's good.
So this is something we still have to learn and to adapt to this global demand. Let's put it this way.
For me, we can just use universal time, Greenwich, UTC. So instead of because it's laborious to write down 15 different times. So if you want, you can do just one time zone, UTC, and everybody calculates by himself or herself.
Yeah.
Well, our experience was that people are not all of the people are acquainted to check up their local time zone, referring to the London time. Okay. So this was the idea to give.
London time is not UTC also.
It's 1 hour different.
London time is GMT or sometimes British Summer Time.
Right, yes.
That's correct, David.
Well, I know our global seafather, like Carmelo, he's an experienced one to move from one time zone to the other with his yachts, just like Bengt, and maybe someone. We have a pilot of an international air company. But anyway, we are.
Thank you, Roland.
We may as well start now, and I would like to welcome you, everybody. It's my honor to do that as I may still say, the chairman of International Teachers of Meditation Association. And in this regard, I would like to introduce, first of all, I would like to welcome also Larissa from St. Petersburg. Hello. And Parasana Jena, I don't know where from you are. And I would like to say hello to Irina as well, and Sasha from Moscow, right? And everybody else. I hope I didn't miss out on somebody. I just see names. Anyway, welcome everybody here. And I'd like to, as I said, introduce Bengt, our lecturer today, who is giving us a talk as announced. And Bengt is a long-time meditator and teacher of transcending meditation in Scandinavia. And he has collected such a long time, many years of experience, also to be an educator. And on the other side, he also is an expert of designing and building ocean-fit yachts. And so there are quite some expertise represented with banked. Today, I would like to ask you, Bank, to introduce your topics you're talking about this now. Thank you.
Thank you, Roland. We had an excellent opportunity as a result of this understanding or misunderstanding of the time. So we have tried out the concept already for 1 hour. So that was very good. I will start to say something about the background. And some of you already know that I started to do yoga and meditation on my own at the early age of 12.
Sorry
But
to
that was
interrupt, Bank.
certain,
Sorry to
yeah.
interrupt. I'm just asking Sasha, shall we speak a little bit slower for you to translate? Okay, fine. Good, thank you.
Okay. So some of you already know that I started meditation and yoga on my own at the age of 12. But there was a specific reason for that. And that was at the age of 12, I realized that everything is possible. And then I started to put up goals for my life, not to waste this possibility of all possibilities. And then I started to think about what would be the ultimate thing that I wanted to be part of creating in my life. And then the natural thing would be peace. And the extreme of peace is world peace. And there is statistics that show that a third of all 12 years old are worried about the state of the world. And I was definitely worried, but maybe I was more angry than worried. I was angry that the grown-up world hadn't already been able to create world peace. Or whether I knew about nuclear bombs and the chain reactions that allow the bombs to explode, or regardless if I knew about that or not, I came to the conclusion that it would be at least theoretically possible for even one person to start a chain reaction, person to person, mouth to mouth, heart to heart, that would eventually lead to world peace. And I also realized that if I could find out some such chain reaction, and not only I would find such a thing, many people would find it or start it, then it would be not only be a theoretical possibility, but a practical possibility. And I like to say that this thinking had nothing to do with my own self-importance or so. It had only to do with my own self-respect. So even if I knew that this was a hopeless, impossible project, for my own self-respect, I decided to do something that I could do. And this that I'm going to talk about now and demonstrate is the result of a systematic focus in that direction since I was 12 years old. And one such important step in this process was when I encountered Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, because I really liked his braveness in promoting the possibility of creating world peace through something similar as what I've thought about. Because logically, peace also begins within individuals. And this effective meditation technique that he taught definitely created peace in individuals, and peace that also then could spread. So I thought that there was no reason why I should invent the wheel again. So I became a TM teacher. Then I should say that the reason why I engaged in ITMA was that gradually I saw the need of a kind of workers' union for meditation teachers. I saw that this is such a crucial way of working, that it should be taken care of. The meditation teachers should be taken care of. And also the need of creating new meditation teachers. But at the time when I joined ITMA, I had already developed things parallel to this on my own. To begin with, it was as an ordinary teacher in the ordinary schools, where I happened to have quite difficult, the contrast of difficult students. And I managed to create a method that made it possible for those students, those individuals, to go from being trouble to being an asset. And then it took many years to realize, firstly, that this method is a meditative method. I had no intention whatsoever to create a new meditative method or a meditative state or so on. It was like, since I had got this education in meditation and so on from Maharishi and this tradition, it was embedded in my own nature. So even though I didn't realize that I was creating a meditative process, I did it by myself, kind of. And it's this process that I want to show you tonight, because usually you do it one person to another person, and you are at the same place. But then it's crucial how you sit, because one crucial thing in this is not to trigger defense mechanisms. So you don't sit, when you do it in person, you don't sit opposed to each other. You sit side by side, the same way as you do when you teach people to meditate, or when you check their meditation. So that was the starting thing. Then I realized gradually that if someone is sitting by, even only being silent, the power, the coordination, the state deepens. And what we are trying to find out now is this possible to do this way via internet on distance? Because if this is possible to do, and you will feel the result of it, then it opens up totally new possibilities. So I will do this. I will use my friend Katarina as an assistant here, but I could do with anyone of you. And originally, I had the idea that I should just read from a paper and see if we could get this effect. Because this technique is, if you try to do it to yourself, it's like playing chess with yourself. It's not possible. You need to have some other person asking you these questions or so on. What I was interested to see was if I would only read from a manuscript, if you still would get the results. Because if that turned out to be possible, anyone could follow that principle without having any knowledge about this. So that's one thing. But now I've invited a lot of friends, and Katarina is one of them. And I decide to ask her instead. Because asking is a crucial thing here. Um, so when we are trying to create the fourth state of consciousness, restful alertness, then there are two factors that need to be kind of fulfilled. And the one thing is that you should be rested. And the other thing that is that you should be alert. And this happens during normal meditation in the way that you sit comfortable. And that rest is deepened by that you close your eyes. But then the factor of heightening your awareness is created with the use of a technique. Or there are thousands of techniques, some more efficient than the others, and so on. This method is based on the same principles, but you don't need to close your eyes. You can sit with your eyes open. Now, in this circumstance, of course, it's possible for you out there to close your eyes if you like or feel comfortable with it, but it shouldn't be necessary. When you do this with grown-up people, you need to give them some basic instructions, because one very essential element in this is being silent together. And usually with grown-up people, they have a hard time being just silent about that. So they tend to, oh yeah, so whatever. So you need to give this specific instruction to grown-up people that I will ask questions, and then when the answer comes, I will repeat the answer, and then we will be silent together until I put the next question. And that is, we will be silent together 10, 15 seconds. Okay. I can actually tell you what will happen, hopefully. When you do this in a safe environment, that is now, these type of questions are empathetically valid. It's very unusual that anyone asks you these questions. So there is a benefit in someone asking these questions. Then there is a benefit in that the person asking the question is repeating the answer, because that deepens this connection of correct empathetic procedures. And then being silent together deepens it even more. And this has a profound neurological effect. So the first thing you will experience is you will experience a physical relaxation in your body. Then when you form the answer to the question, you will experience a focus. And that focus will kind of be more intense when you hear your answer repeated. And then in the silence afterwards, you will experience an expansion of your thinking and feeling, so that you will realize that whatever you have answered is somewhat correct. Still, it's part of a spectrum. That means usually people have a very hard time changing their attitudes. Even people who want to change their attitudes have a very hard time changing attitudes. This is also, besides being a meditative process, it's also a way to help someone else to find better ways of feeling, thinking, attitude, and so on. Okay, so I will ask Katarina questions in this way. I will repeat her answer and then be silent together for 10-15 seconds. And then I will ask another question and repeat that answer, being silent together, and so on. Then we will have some normal talk because this process is not about finding out things, finding out solutions or whatever. If we find solutions or whatever, that's good, but that's not the point. So it's not an intellectual thing, really. It's something else. But since it's something else, it could be good to have some normal talk in between segments of this asking questions, repeating, and so on. And we will do that. And then it will also be possible for you to ask questions about the process. Then it's like you could ask questions that are totally neutral. You can ask questions like, how do you like the color blue? And have these neurological results. But usually the dynamics is much stronger if you ask something on a subject that is kind of charged, sign that there is some stress in it. Then you will also experience a clearer relaxation and stress release. But since I've also, for this meeting, said that it's about inaugurating a 30-year plan to create at least some place in this universe an fully academically accredited World Peace University of Invention. Actually, about a year ago, when I became 70, I decided to inaugurate that plan symbolically. But when I've decided that, it came to me that what I should start with was, during the first year, I should do absolutely nothing. Because doing absolutely nothing is the absolute of doing less and accomplishing more. And then I should start to educate teachers in this. And that is the point where we are now. And I can speak very much more about the background and the future and everything. So now I will start. Katarina, är du där? Ska vi se här. Okej, ja. Okej. Katarina, hör du mig?
Ja. Ja.
Ja. För nu ska vi köra på allvar här.
Ja, jag var
Är du med?
borta en stund. Jag var borta alldeles nyss.
Ja. Ja, men det
Okej.
gör ju ingenting.
Ja, jag kan vara med en
Okej.
liten stund. Okej.
Ja, men det räcker. Det kan 5 minuter, 10 minuter kanske. Okay, Katarina. So, how do you like peace?
Okay. Jag kan starta videon. Så. How do I like peace? I like peace. I like peace so much.
You like peace very much. How do you like having peace in your own personal life?
Um, I think it's that's when life is best and everything feels peaceful inside. Like you can be joyful and things can happen, but it's in a state of peace.
So you like having peace in your life, in your inside, and that will affect other things in life in a good way. How do you like the possibility of creating world peace?
Yeah, I think it's a big question, but it's something I want to have faith in that it's possible.
So you like to at least have faith in the possibility of creating world peace. How do you like the possibility of getting knowledge so that you can help both yourself and other people to find inner peace?
I think that's important, and the thought of it makes me happy. Yeah, it gives
So
meaning to life.
You like that because it gives meaning to life, and you get happy when you think about it. How do you like the situations when you feel that there is no peace at all?
I think it's sad and it's frustrating, and yeah, it really makes me sad. Um, but I still want to believe there is a way.
So it makes you sad situations when there is no peace. Still, you like to see that there is this possibility of other situation with peace. How do you like the situation today with war in Ukraine and these terror things in Israel and so on?
Um, yeah, it really makes me sad, and like everybody, doesn't like the wars, and also it's so sad because you feel so powerless, and that you can't do anything, and that it's happening while we are sitting here. And also it makes you feel that you are so privileged not to be there. but it gives me a feeling of powerlessness.
So it gives you a feeling of powerlessness at the same time as you realize that we are very privileged that we are not there.
Mm.
There is a very strong connection between how you succeed with things and how you like things. In the way that when you succeed with whatever it is, you like it because it's not as fun to fail. And if you happen to fail repeatedly and also with something of importance, then it's quite usual that you tend to start to dislike or even hate this, whatever it is you have failed with. And if this then continues, then there is a tendency that you could start to hate or dislike people and circumstances that is connected to this. And then you will have the impression that you have that this interpretation is true, and you have a hard time seeing that something else is true, parallel. And so you could see, you can feel that you have a correct interpretation of the situation. Still, there could be some nagging sense within you that that is not the whole truth. And that could be quite disturbing when you see other people going through life without difficulties and so on. And this is a kind of taboo. You don't talk about it. So there is also a very strong connection between how much effort you put in and how you succeed. But that everyone knows. What we don't talk about is that you can actually fail many times because you put in too much effort or effort in a wrong way. Then there is also this connection between what technique you use and how you succeed. So if you can find the right technique, you can often, without much effort, succeed with things that you failed with previously, regardless that you put in a lot of efforts. Okay, this is an example of a full session of this method. We could have had a period of normal talk in the middle, but I think we could have a period of normal talk now. And then I ask to begin with Katarina if she has something that she wants to say.
I thank you, Bengt. What I can say is that it's so nice because of this silence. When it's the silent period, things come to you, and it's like you reach really into your heart. And for me, it was like also when I feel frustrated, I feel a lot of hate towards these people who are creating or keeping this world going on. So I felt like, oh, I have to work with my own hate. It came to me through this session. So thank you.
Well, this process tends to create some inner motivation to develop and to see new possibilities and so on. And I see that David, that he's willing to let me give him some questions. Okay, so how do you like peace, David?
I like this a lot. Feels good.
You like peace a lot. It feels good.
Would you like me to share the notes, mental notes I took during this exercise?
When I'm finished um, with as David, that would be
Sorry,
great.
we've started a second. Okay, my apologies. I
Yeah,
did not.
yeah. But
Sorry.
I'm very grateful that you have taken notes. That's great.
My apologies.
Okay, okay. So, David, how do you like that you, as a meditation teacher, has had and still have the opportunity to help people create peace in themselves and in their surroundings?
I love that more than I love life itself.
You love that more than your life, like love itself. How do you like the concept of world peace?
I feel fully committed to the concept of world peace. I want to work for it by being silent.
So you're fully committed to working with the world peace and also do it through the element of silence. How do you like the possibility of ITMA being a part in enhancing this process of creating silence and peace, both in individuals and in groups and in the world?
I love it for its decision to adopt this role and for being so good at it.
So you like the fact that it must have taken this position and also being so good at implementing it. How do you like it if there are if and when there are circumstances in your life where there is lack of peace?
There are circumstances in my life where there is lack of peace, and I accept this and tolerate it and observe it, and it is not me.
So there are situations in your life where that's lacking peace, and when those circumstances occur, then you prioritize to observe it and look at it and realize that it's not you. How do you like the fact that there is a war in Ukraine and there is terror in Israel and violence at other places?
I think that in ignorance of the full knowledge, people have a desire for revenge. I can understand it. I can tolerate it. I don't like it.
So you have a deep understanding of the mechanisms here, so you can see and understand that people in certain circumstances can feel strong urges of revenge, for example. So you can understand it and in a way tolerate it. Still, you work in the direction of finding solutions to this problem. Okay, let's have some normal talk.
Sorry for interrupting. Would you like me to share my observations
Yeah,
now?
absolutely. Tell us about it.
So, Bank, first of all, congratulations for this exercise. It is very interesting. It is first time that I experienced this. It is obviously working. It is fascinating how creating a very focused intention, not only attention, but intention collectively has an effect on the psyche. Fantastic. The three observations that I had during the first experiment with Katarina, and then I repeated it when you did this experiment with David, is first of all, there is a question whether it is successful or not. It is successful. I am certain of this, and I'm certain for two reasons, one theoretical and the other practical. The theoretical reason is the fact that when you enter transcendence, you are actually exiting the physical material world. So you are exiting the sphere that is governed by time, space, and matter. Therefore, it does not matter where you are, in which part of the world you are all in the same realm. There is one realm, and you are all in the same realm. And the practical reason why I know it is working is because the feeling that I have as I'm meditating with you present, and either we were doing it the normal Maharishi way or with this thought experiment, but the feeling that I had in the meditation is completely different than when I'm meditating alone. So I know that I do feel the effect of other people that are focusing on the same topics at the same time together with me. That is the first observation. The second observation is very simple. I find the eyes to be an immense barrier. Immense, 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 immense. So whenever you ask the question and the person replied, with my eyes open, I listen. And then if I kept my eyes open, I listen and that's it. If I close my eyes, all of a sudden, it spread through my whole body, my whole mind. It created a sense of warmth that I did not feel if my eyes were open. So this is just my personal observation. And the third aspect is an extrapolation, something that is a bit more abstract. But when you are talking about world peace and when you are talking about intentions, when you're talking the individual role, over time, I've come to realize since everything that we do can only be through our individual perception, the old way of asking the intercession of the Blessed Virgin or Christ to put an end to this war, or now I ask, give me the power to put an end to this war. This is something that I have come to do that is not necessarily pertinent to this exercise, but since we are talking about peace and how the world peace is necessarily connected, individual peace is inherent with world peace. This is one of even the principles of Christianity, why Christianity needs to be evangelical, because from the time of St. Augustine with the concept of city of God, and even before, there is this idea that only if there is a spread understanding, a universal understanding of the divine nature of each individual, then we can all peacefully express that. But personally, I have evolved to take this as a first person challenge, not simply asking somebody to intercede for me, but giving me the power to do this. These are my 3 observations.
Oh, great. Very interesting. It seems that we have come to a new insight that when doing this collectively, we add a new possibility, and that is doing it with the eyes closed. It's like being standby like this. It may be very natural to close your eyes. It's not as natural to have closed eyes and ask someone something, and it's not as natural for the one who is responding to respond the answer with the eyes closed. But now, when you are out there individually, it's quite okay and correct and so on to close your eyes. I had every reason to believe that this will work, but I didn't think of the possibility of actually closing one's eyes.
For me, the closing of eyes was natural and happened at times that I felt I was transcending.
Yeah, it's interesting, very interesting, really. So it seems that it works. Are there any one of you who didn't feel some relaxation or expansion or meditative state or something? You don't dare to speak out. I'm joking.
Well, I would like to say,
Yeah.
this idea of being silent together, without necessarily having the eyes closed, is very, very intriguing, insofar as it worked with me now. And I don't know whether I was tired or whether the method worked, because my eyes wanted to close, and I was sinking into silence, deep silence. And I think this just be silent and not sitting, being confronting each other, but sitting side by side. I just try to imagine how this is applied in practice. Usually, when we are sitting in group meditations, like there's the teacher and there are the meditators or the others, and the guide who is guiding the group meditation usually sits not side by side. But I remember reading the sutras of Buddha. It's always been introduced by somebody saying, I approached Buddha and I sat to him at his side, and I didn't sit in front of him. Can you comment on that?
Well, I think that's yeah, I could comment in a big way, because when I developed this method, I thought that many other people would have done this. Gradually, I realized that maybe this is even world unique. But for some years ago, I did the method on the subway of Stockholm, actually. um, and with a person who has been, he is not meditation teacher in our tradition, but in other traditions and so on. And of course, he realized that it works. And then he said that it was it's in somehow similar to an old Buddhist practice that they use today, that with a name, I forget it. Well, the method is that you ask continuously, and you've been asking continuously, who are you? Again and again and again. And to begin with, well, I'm Bengt Nilsson, blah, blah, blah. But later on, you will realize, well, I'm that flower. You will run out of answers, but it will somehow boil down to finding out your very inner thing. So there is apparently through history methods of this character has been used. Then I should also tell you about a certain experience that I had. It was about 12 years ago that I, for the first time, developed this kind of grown-up method, because I found out about this method with difficult students at my work. So it took a very long time for me to realize that anyone at any age could have great values of this. And the longest time it took was for me myself to realize the benefits I myself would have from it. Please remind me about being like sleepy or so because of the process. I will say something about that later on. But I will tell you about this experience because when, like 12 years ago, when I first developed this grown-up method, I soon realized that there was a potential of kind of rounding with this thing, doing it for many hours and so on. So I wanted to find out what that could be like. So I found a friend, and he agreed to do this. It was a lazy Sunday. We had nothing else to do. And we did this back and forth. I was asking him, he was asking me, and so on. We were doing this back and forth for between 6 and 8 hours. And of course, that was revitalizing and so on. But the curious thing was when I left, I felt some lightness in the whole of my back, like not only the spine or so, the whole back, all the muscles or so, in a way that I never felt before. And at that time, I had been meditating for so many years and being a teacher and so on. So I had quite some experience. Then during the coming 3 days, this kind of lightness spread through the upper part of my body, out in the arms and in the hands and fingers, and through my lower body, out in my legs and out in the feet and so on. And after 3 days, this thought came repeatedly from my inner self, that I'm the most beautiful being that has ever existed in this universe. And then, of course, I realized that that was not an egoistic thing. That applies to everyone, everything. That's the essence of everyone and everything. It was the essence of myself that was speaking to me. And that is kind of still vibrating a bit in me. So we are in the beginning of exploring the possibilities that this will open up. Okay, Roland, you said that you were a bit insecure whether the the sleepiness you felt was due to this method or if it was something else. I do this with some regularity with my wife. And I should say that we would have been divorced several years ago if we hadn't done this with some regularity. But what she feels when we do this is she very soon starts to get sleepy. And getting sleepy is a sign of relaxation. I'm not sure that she fully realizes this in a way that you don't really fully realize that, oh, is it this method or not? But it is. So it's a sign that it works.
Thank you. I would like to have another question to this sitting side by side. It's interesting me ever since as I said, ever since I started to read the sutras of Buddha, the songs of Buddha, and when it's being carefully translated and not shorted, very often the books are very shorted because it's kind of a repetitive. But let's take Buddha as some certifying what you are saying. Now, we know we have been grown up in a spiritual tradition like it's Christianity, or others maybe those who have books in their religion, like the Muslims, they have the Quran. And so we know that in the churches or in the mosques, there's always somebody in front, either it's the priest or it's the imam who is talking from a book to the audience. And often enough, he or she speaks from a higher level somewhere in the huge space of a church or a mosque. And can it be, now that's a theoretical question, can it be that it's not so easy to find peace in such a setting when somebody in front of you speaks out from a book and he talks and it talks and it talks to the audience? Where is the peace within the people sitting there listening?
Well, my response to that is that probably some people are more wired in a way that they can benefit from such circumstances and feel the peace. But many, maybe most people are not. But if you use methodology that is connected to the circumstances, then it should be possible to create this. One of the books, the Vedic books that deals with transcendence is Shiva Sutras. And there are like hundreds of ways to transcend, even in very difficult situations. And Maharishi was speaking about that he had only given out a small percentage of the full knowledge. And I would say that wouldn't have been able to find out about these things and create this methodology, and definitely not understand why and how it works and write about it without the knowledge that I got from Maharishi and the Vedic tradition and Gurudev and so on. So during Guru Purnama, my first reaction was that I should do this that we have done today at Guru Purnama. But then I realized that I could just kind of inaugurate the inauguration by talking about Maharishi, that in the beginning of the movement, many journalists asked him who would continue after him, and his response to that was that he was creating thousands of Maharishis. And I think we should take this on face value. And one way to do it is he created a lot of universities and things. Why couldn't we do that? So now we do that. So, and I have during all these years created a lot of other meditative processes that really works. But I think also the basic of it, the main thing, if you should learn any technique, it would be this basic way to transcend that most of us has used and learned for many years.
Sorry, Bengt. Is this now the second part of your lecture today? Because I see Larissa raised her hand, and maybe she wanted to put a question to this part you've been talking up to right now.
Yeah, so I think it's what we should do now is focus on questions from anyone. So please.
Всех приветствую, спасибо вам большое за великие знания, которые вы даете. Я хочу рассказать о своих ощущениях и, может быть, дать какую-то свою характеристику.
Hello everybody, and I'm grateful to hear from you about all the knowledge gained, these common experiences with you. And with your permission, I would like to share my observations regarding that wonderful initiative, wonder of sitting near.
Когда человек находится рядом, это генетически заложено элемент доверия. Поэтому любые действия, которые происходят как бы вот рука об руку, они в большей степени ведут как раз к получению знаний, к доверию. Мы обнимаем любимого человека, мы в браке встаем рядом, они напротив друг друга. Только рыцари напротив друг друга сражались.
And this sitting next to someone, sitting near a person, is an element of trust. Up to genetics, it is the trust in itself. And we feel completely different flow of action, completely different energy of trust. And it is in traditions, in religions, when we are engaging in marriage, we are spouse and husband, they are next to each other, they are near each other, holding arms, holding hands.
В своей работе я всегда стараюсь использовать как раз вот такой метод, чтобы человек был со стороны. И у нас в офисе в большей степени стоят круглые столы, чтобы расслабить человека. Если мы говорим про медитацию, то, безусловно, в тех группах, где я медитировала, вот это такая круглая, не квадратная, ну, как бы сказать, даже если комната квадратная, мы все равно садились всегда кругом. И что происходит? Максимально получала я такую сильную поддержку друг от друга и зевала вообще, рот у меня никогда не закрывался. Поэтому я согласна про такой тип медитации.
And I use it in my job and my workplace. We have mostly common round tables. All the in my workplace, I use the round tables only. And we also practice meditations. Tens of people sitting behind the round table of enormous size. They are far opposite from each other. They are near person next to them. And this feeling of meditation starts immediately when they sit down and stop talking. But the mantra is not needed. They all focus in one attention. So I really share that initiative to be sitting, and I really use that initiative to be sitting next to someone in the way of communication, which starts from trust, which starts as it should be towards the goal without unnecessary effort from the heart. Да, Ларис, ты можешь продолжать. Или это у тебя вопрос есть? So I just wanted to share that. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, Bengt, now you're going ahead with your second part of today's lecture. If I want to say it, inauguration of a plan to create a fully accredited world peace university of invention.
Before we start the second part, can I say something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. I don't know what to press to do, like Larissa, to show the hand. I have not figured it out. I'm sorry. So I do it with my hands physically. In the traditional mass, in the traditional Latin mass, the priest is also alongside the faithful. So he walks through the middle of the aisle with the faithful, reaches the altar. Only once he's in the altar, he's elevated, but he's not facing the faithful. He's leading the faithful, guiding them to the cross. Only when he has to scold the faithful on the pulpit, when he does the sermon, then he goes to another place and walks up the steps and faces the crowd. So yes, I do agree that the modern way of preaching in church is not correct. With the teacher, like in the school, that stands in front of everybody and says blah 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 and reads from the book. It's not the proper way of doing things. In fact, the old Christian spirituality was much more, I think, elevated than today. So just to confirm that Buddha did the things correctly as Christ did, and if you go back to the Tridentine tradition, it was more correct than today for sure. When you come to Malta, Roland, when you come to Malta, I will take you to the Latin Mass just for the experience. Like that, you will see.
Thank you, Larissa, and thank you, Carmelo. Bengt, please.
Okay. As you might understand, I can talk about this for hours. And I'm very grateful that I have the opportunity to talk a little bit more because when I, 1 year ago, inaugurated symbolically this new 30-year-old plan, I had 10 years before that, I had already inaugurated another 30-year-old plan. But that 30-year-old plan would be to create one fully academically accredited World University of Invention, not a World Peace University of Invention. But I already then had the structure and the focus on peace. So I had the idea of having 3 departments of this university. And that is also consistent with the special university that the World Peace University of Invention is. And these 3 departments are Voice of World Peace, that is an invention in itself. Voice of World Peace Party, that is also kind of an invention. And then there is Voice of World Peace Creative Industries. Because to create peace is not only a matter of being passive, there need to be dynamics. And it's well known where trade and all of these things work. People tend to prioritize peaceful trading more than war. So that's one thing. Then with this voice of world peace idea is that for the first known time in human history, it's physically, technically possible to create a voice of world peace through internet and so on. And we have seen that such initiatives concerning the climate and so on has been successful. And there are like organizations like vad heter det för någonting? Those who are protecting the whales, for example. You must know what I'm talking about. I lost the name of that organization.
Greenpeace.
Because I think it's Greenpeace. Yeah, that's true. Well, actually, when the debate started about the climate and the environments and so on, many institutions and companies tried to hide it, but the big public didn't accept that, and that has resulted in that many even big companies, they are quite they have quite some focus on their image as environmental friendly. Of course, it could be discussed and criticized how effective they are and how true they are and so on. But in any way, it's a very, very much different big change compared to companies and authorities trying to deny this and that. So now both institutions and companies, they try to avoid being seen as villains regarding environmental things. So my idea with this voice of world peace, which of course is connected to my idea as a 12-year-old that it must be at least theoretically possible, etc., was that if you go out with this, if you start to create this voice of world peace, then the weapon industry could have an interest in not giving up all that thing, because that's not so likely. But in many times, in many parts of the world, military personnel has been used for avoiding environmental catastrophes and so on. And so that could mean that the voice of world peace could start to make these industries that is based on the war industry to gradually transition to kind of peace industry without resolving all of these battalions and weapons and everything. So that's one point of this. And the Voice of World Peace could also be a newspaper. It could be a YouTube channel. It could be an internet network, whatever. Then the other one, Voice of World Peace Party, is concentrated on two meanings of party. Party is feasting, but it's also like political party. And I have no specific political ambitions, but if there is an organizing force in nature that enables such political parties or world peace to be created, I would encourage that. But then I will also encourage parties, peace parties, because we think about war, that is war all the time, but actually war is very much waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and then things happen, and then again waiting and waiting and waiting. So in a way, there is very much more peace in this world than there is war, even where there is war. And I think it's good to put the focus on that and celebrate the instances and the places where there is peace. So, and then using that, you could also spread knowledge of all kinds, like this method or whatever. But also, the next step is the World Peace University, eller vad heter det, så att säga, Voice of World Peace Creative Industries. Creative industries internationally is also often connected with like film industry, music industry, and so on. But in my world, you know, because the word technique is from Greece and it means art. So I made a graffiti-like arts exhibition with between 30 and 48 pieces of art. One design for the district very close to Stockholm, the lake district called Mälaren. Mälaren is a big lake that is connected inland from Stockholm. And the main thing is to start this exhibition at 10 places around Lake Mälaren, 10 cities around Lake Mälaren. And then let those 10 exhibitions spread over Sweden and over this the world. So that's now it's the start to be the 12th year of the first 30-year-old plan for creating a University of Invention. And we start the second year of the 30-year plan of creating a World Peace University of Invention. So at the 10th year of the first plan, we started to become more practical. And I used the method and the resources that I had. That means my boats. So I can travel without a lot of expense around the Lake Mälaren. And there are very many people living around Lake Mälaren. And also I could have mini exhibitions in my boat, because you could sit like 7, 8, 10 people inside the boat, and I have 2 of them, and so on. So that was like honoring the very bright and clear-thinking 12-year-old boy I once was with doing this, regardless if it will be effective or not. So, yeah. Also, having these parties, you will also it would also be like exhibitions. So people who have ideas with innovations, whether they are like material or physical things, or more like those spiritual, soulful things, they could have a possibility to show them and so on. And also, the idea is, of course, to conduct research in many ways.
Thank you very much, Bengt. for this very, very interesting introduction of, let me say, your lifelong dream, which starts with the age of 12 years of an almost universal worldwide dimension, to investigate the possibilities of inventives and applicable, practical, peaceful behavior in different directions. I would like to open up the space for any question from the audience. Okay.
It strikes me that Maharishi Mahesh Yogi came out of India in 1959 or 1958. He didn't know really anybody outside of India very well. He went to Hawaii and somehow found somebody to stay with, and didn't seem like much was happening. But then from there, he went to California, and suddenly people were talking and things were happening. And all of a sudden, a great movement began. I'm thinking about Bengt and his yachts, traveling around to lakes, and who knows, maybe a big movement will start. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Well, that would be marvelous.
On the background that what you said, Bengt, that once Maharishi is not with us anymore physically, the question of continuation, that there will be the teachers of meditation to be the followers, and he even gave them the credit of being Maharishis. Now, I may ask, because I see there are represented so many different, so many very interesting personalities here, even though we are not that many. But I dare to ask my friend Bernhard Paul, who is a messenger between the worlds of the East and the West. And what do you think about Bengt's consideration? Oh, you need to open your microphone. I just would like to say, oh, okay. Bernhard Paul, he is since the mid-60s almost representing the Austrian movement here and there, and has been spending many years in China, in Formosa, or and on the islands there, at least diving into the Chinese culture, spreading the message of peace. But does anybody else have a question to Bengt?
I got cut off because my device, unfortunately, is very old, and the battery collapsed. It was supposed to last longer, but it collapsed. I missed the part where, had you already started this project of teaching meditation on the boats, on the yachts, or this is a project that you are proposing for ITMA?
No, well, I've already started. Um, I had a plan to do this in the Lake Mälaren for 3 summers. And the idea was that it would take 3 summers to organize so that these graffiti-like exhibitions that have the theme of motivation beyond stress, and that people are the strongest motivation power for people. Also introducing this method and other methods and so on.
Do you find
Um,
the difference when you meditate on the water compared to when you meditate on land?
well, I've initiated a lot of people on board, but there is not so much difference in a way. But I would say, like, sailing in itself is a bit like meditating. It has these two ingredients of kind of sitting comfortable in a way, with a deeper level of relaxation, and at the same time a heightened level of awareness. So even if you sit on a wooden bench for
Yeah.
hours and hours, you don't feel like it's hours and hours and hours. For example, I was sailing one of my yachts on my own for 8 hours from the north of Stockholm into the center of Stockholm, and I didn't feel any fatigue from that. And I've been sailing very much, but through many years. But it has been some time during recent years that I have not been sailing so much, and I've experienced several times where there has been such periods that I've not been sailing so much, that I kind of get the same surprising effect of how soothing it is, and how the sailing itself creates this meditative state, because you need to be alert with the things around you, the wind, the waves, other boats, and so on. But you don't, there is no, you don't have the focus and the time to worry about whatever there is to worry about in life. You have to be there and then. And then there is also this beauty with the sail, the boat, the wind, the waters, and so on. So it's a kind of very meditative thing to be out on the water, and specifically be out on the water sailing.
I ask because Roland knows I work as a skipper, and I've not had the opportunity, but I've been wanting to guide people to meditate on water, because I often have the opportunity to meditate on water while my guests are having lunch or they are on shore. And I find the water to be an extremely, how do you say, a very good vehicle for meditation, because you as you are meditating, you feel a certain rhythm of the waves hitting the boat, and the ocean itself is a metaphor of our psyche. You know, it is constantly in motion on the top, and perfectly quiet on the bottom, in the inside. So I think that yeah, I would like to have the opportunity one day, hopefully, to share this with you, because for me, every time that I meditate at the river, at the edge of a body of water, I find it much easier to go into a deep state of meditation, and very rewarding. I always find it very rewarding.
Well, traditionally, it has been quite common to meditate in the vicinities of lakes or rivers and so on. And regarding running waters, as well as waves, it's constantly changing, and at the same time, it's always the same.
Exactly.
So there is the key to life.
Yeah.
Life is constantly changing and at the same time, ever the same.
Thank you.
Well, any more question for Bengt? From our artists, from our theorists, from our scientists? So I may say we are somehow bewildered by your approach, Bengt, to what we are all have become some sort of familiar with ever since we have engaged ourselves not only in the practice of meditation, but also in the practice of teaching meditation. And it's very, very interesting, and I'm tempted to reflect one more time on your considerations, especially with this idea of transformation of some, as you called it, the University of Invention, University of Peace of Invention, something like this. And so that the war, the people who are engaged in war industry, producing weapons in order to protect the people, but right now we have not everywhere peace on the planet, but still on large scales people have peace. And your consideration is that in those intervals where there is no war, no hot war, let's put it this way, people are engaging in the war industry is resting in a peaceful manner. That's a very, very interesting postulation. And I took it, and as one of the notes I will be using in my talks about meditation. So, okay, Larissa, you want to say something?
Я посмотрела в интернет и обнаружила, что с 1945 года на планете было всего 26 дней без войны.
So I went online and I Googled that since 1945, our planet has only 26 days without war, like everywhere.
Вот с этой информацией я даже не знаю, какой задать вам вопрос.
Knowing that, I struggle to come up with a question. How to say that?
Выросло 4 поколения, которые всегда понимали, что такое война.
4 generations of people were raised who always knew and understood, like with their own eyes, what war actually is.
И мне кажется, нет ни одного человека, который бы сказал, что я хочу жить в войне. Все хотят мира.
And in my opinion, there is no man who would tell that I want to live at war. I think everybody wants peace.
В 12 лет я выиграла городской конкурс в сочинении «Я голосую за мир», но, к сожалению, на сегодня я живу при военных действиях.
At my age of 12, I won a city competition with artwork, with essay, with the topic, I want to live in a peaceful world. Unfortunately, nowadays, I live in a country which conducts war.
Со своей стороны я, конечно, делаю все возможное, и сейчас надо закончить обучение, чтобы я тоже могла стать великим учителем и дать людям возможность чувствовать себя более гармонично в таком мире, и чтобы вот эти знания, конечно, передавались дальше, потому что прошло столько лет, а у нас в целом на Земле все еще не так хорошо, как многим хотелось бы.
Of course, from my end, I feel the necessity and very strong intention, only strengthening up intention to complete my teachers of meditation education, my TTA, to become the teacher, to become the messenger, to have that ability to spread the world peace, because we, as I feel, might be better at it. We need to be better at it. That's it.
I'd like to say a few things. Actually, I'm kind of transcending all the time here, and when I do that, I kind of forget what I'm about to say, but I think I'm sure I will soon find it. What I've realized, and what this graffiti-like exhibition is dealing with, besides the concept, introducing the concept of motivation beyond stress, is that we are herd animals, in a sense. We need to be connected to people. But I have made a very extensive educational material around this, and Roland has got some of it, and also Avner. It's about 1,000 A4 pages at this moment, and with easy tools of translation, it's possible to translate it so that any one of you could have it. I've also made recordings, mainly in Swedish, of the recent things, so it would be easy to listen to. But this could be arranged in any language if anyone wants to help. Because I found that there is also a lot of theory behind this that man may have use for. And one of these theories that that animals have super senses. That's common knowledge. Like dogs have their extreme sense of smell, and birds have a marvelous sense of orientation. But since animals have these super senses, we could almost assume that we humans have super senses. But since we live with it all the time, like the fish live in the water and may ask what is water, but they are surrounded with water, we may not really understand what our super senses are. But in this theory, around this methodology and so on, that I in Swedish call linjeempati, like that would translate to line of empathy, that could be in the line of empathy or in a line of empathy. Like you could choose a certain direction in your education. You You could choose like science, or you could choose art, or you could choose whatever. And you can use that for some time, and then you could choose something else. So my idea is that you could have the opportunity, everyone should have the opportunity to choose the line of empathy and see how that will work in their lives. Okay, so the theory in this also says that one of our human super senses is the capacity of connecting. And to begin with, we connect to our parents and the people who take care of us. And the better that connection has been, we become better at connecting at anything, the nature, knowledge, science, music, art, whatever. So we can connect to very abstract things, abstract ideas. And the fact that we do this conference and we have this topic about peace, that we are capable of having this proves the existence of that part of our super sense. So, okay, so we need other people. I propose that people is the strongest motivation force for people. That's one side of the coin. But in engaging in relations, day-to-day relations, both resolves stress and creates stress. And we are not taught how to resolve the stress that is created by the necessary contact with other people, the contact that we need because we are humans. This method, and there are other methods, helps to release that stress that is created in interaction with other people. So we can see, especially for me, that has developed this mythology, when I look around, I can be sure that this person, that couple, so they don't know about this. And I try to spread this in the schools. And it took me several decades to realize that one reason why it was so difficult to spread was that the teachers, the grown-ups, they hadn't been taught this when they were young, when they were students. So how could the young people know about this? So there is both great hope and something else, because this could be changed. And let's say when I started to try to spread this in the schools, my first impression was that the reason why it was hard to spread was that people, my colleagues and so, they didn't want to understand. But then after some time, many years, I realized that they simply didn't understand. And now, for a year or two, I realized that they can't understand. And in a way, that has been a relief, because if people do what they can, but still cannot manage, you can feel empathy for that. You can, it's not a burden anymore. And now I've come to the point where I start to find out how this could be spread
Теперь понимаю,
to
как это можно
people. This
распространять.
way, this experiment
То
is
есть
a part of
эксперимент,
this.
который мы сегодня провели, это путь к тому, что можно нормально распространять. Прошу прощения, звук отрубился.
Can I add something from a historical point of view rather than purely from a individual point of view? Is it all right, Bang?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So I, besides being a skipper and previously an entrepreneur, and actually I'm also now a researcher in the University of Malta in history. And the reason why I'm doing this is because we have so much potential today in terms of the knowledge that we have. And this group is a demonstration of how much we have understood the human psyche and the potential of our lives, but we are going in a completely wrong direction. So historically, there are two periods of relative peace. One is the Pax Romana, which lasted 200 years in the classical era. Augustus was the last emperor of the Pax Romana, the greatest Roman emperor, who was a Stoic, who slept on wooden benches because he did not want to have any privilege and wanted to have the same conditions as his subjects. And the other was the late medieval, Renaissance, and early modern period in Italy. Now, the interesting thing about the Italian city-state period, the Roman time was more like what would be a Pax Americana, if the Pax Americana had lasted longer, which is peace within the boundaries of the Roman Empire, but constantly at war outside to maintain the limes, to maintain the boundary. So during these 200 years of Pax Romana, it was a time of peace and prosperity within the confines of the Roman Empire, but the legions were constantly at the marshes, at the borders to, how do you say, today we would say gentrify, to sort of to quieten down the limits of the empire. The Italian period of late medieval, Renaissance, and early modern is completely different. Completely different. It was never at peace. It was, in a way, like today. But you could easily say that in these 400 years time frame, there was never a day without a war, because all the city-states were tiny, they were minute, they were constantly in competition with each other, and would resort to war if they could not get the commercial terms that they wanted. The interesting thing, and why I say that this was a period of relative stability in terms of peace, is that these wars were extremely polite. It was like lions in a pride, measuring themselves and then backing down once one of the two recognizes that the other is dominant. But there was never, in these 400 years, I recall off the top of my head only 2 cases of violence against civilians. 2 cases in 400 years of warfare. So basically, Fernand Braudel, who's a great French historian, says oftentimes it was more a military parade than an actual battle. And I have taken this matter to heart, because today our wars are incredibly cruel, incredibly cruel. The civilian casualties are immense. And we don't see it because it's far away from us, but it happens all the time. So, in my opinion, the secret for this kind of prosperous period of constant competition, at times violent, but with very, very strong ethics, is that these are the 3 pillars that I've identified. One, extreme federalism. Venice lost 2/3 of its parliament in one single battle, the Battle of Lepanto. Today, none of our politicians, none of them, participate in the wars they wages. Never. So the smaller the political unit is, the more free the individual is, the more valuable the human life is. When a prince has 500,000 subjects or 100,000 subjects, of which 50,000 or 20,000 are soldiers, but all of the male citizens can become soldiers if the city is attacked, every single life is valuable to defend himself. But when you are Mao Zedong with 1 billion, or this was in the 70s, 1.5 billion or 1 billion, 1.3 billion subjects, famously he said China can afford to use 500 million human beings for the purpose of the revolution. So human life in large, the larger the political unit, the weaker we are as human beings. The second point is, I know this sounds a contradiction for teachers of meditation, but it's not, it's necessary. Armed citizenry. Every single city-state in Italy, the people were armed. They were not like today that there were urban citizens without weapons in their homes. They all had weapons in their homes. So every doge, every prince, every minister knew that he could rely on his subjects to defend the city. And I think that the fact of having a city filled with people that had weapons was also deterrent for the enemy not to be too hostile once it went in, because they would also pay the consequences. Switzerland is an example of how, by virtue of having all its citizens trained in defending themselves, it has had 500 years of peace. The third aspect, which is what has come to miss most significantly, even when I mentioned Switzerland, who is still very federal and is still armed, the third aspect is a common creed, a ecumenic creed. The fact that everyone must respect the sanctity of human life. And that has come to pass. That has come to pass. So I know it's a little bit off the topic from the point of view of meditation, but if we want to achieve world peace, I think we have to study a little bit our history and when people did experience a bit of less warfare.
Yeah, definitely. I agree totally with you.
David mentioned that until 1754, English citizens were armed. Yes, they were. It's a modern thing. It's the people stopped being armed when with the period of absolute monarchy. Absolute monarchs created standing armies because they were more efficient to wage wars against other territories, but also to defend themselves because there was a concentration of power and they were constantly afraid of revolts. So the citizenry became unarmed. But until the 17th, 18th century, it was very normal for everybody to be armed. And I personally think we should go back in that direction.
Violence is typical of ignorance of the true nature of life as being joyful. So there's been so much violence in the world. England had King Henry VIII, who single-handedly destroyed almost all of the religion that he didn't like, as well as women he was finished with. The world has a horrible, horrible history. We should not be constrained by our history. Yes, we should learn from it, but we should not be constrained by it to lower ourselves to that level of idiocy that most of humanity enjoys.
David, may I make a little point? I don't think that for me, history is a very specific, I can say it in a phrase what it is. It is the tracking and fostering of human progress. So I do believe that we are in a direction of constant evolution to get better and better and better. But when I look at the past, it is not in the idea of how to lower ourselves back to then. It is how people did things better than we are doing now. And what did they do different so that they had a more successful society? That is the way I see our world today. I see our world today as being in one of the most desperate states historically. And that is why I try to find inspiration from history of how to improve our present condition. This is my perspective, at least.
Thank you, Carmelo, for your very interesting contribution about what Bengt has been presenting as his project of what they call a university accredited of invention for creating peace. Now, as time has passed by almost 2 hours, we made it a habit to somehow close the session. And I want to say, if I may, I want to comment on that, that it seems that I don't want to overvalue our role, but there seems to be no other alternative than as to create that value of the transcendence within everybody, since Bengt did feel it already as a 12-year-old youngster. And I hear it from Larissa. She can't wait to become a teacher of meditation. And so it seems to be our task to continue to teach meditation teachers. And I'm happy about this, if I may say so, kind of conclusion, without giving a clear statement to yours, Carmelo, or yours, David, or Bengt. If you agree, Bengt, unless you have another final word, then we may close our lecture. Do you have something to address your audience, Bengt, as a final word?
Well, I'm very happy with this session, and it corresponds to an experience that I have had several times, and that is when I have worked and created and developed something for enough time and so on for the quality, and I test it like I tested this now, even though I had some uncertainty whether it would work or not. Usually in these circumstances, the results are much better than I thought. So I'm very, very kind of impressed about what we have created here. Also, the symbolic value of having done this, because this can be repeated again and again and again. Thank you.
Thank you, Bengt. Thank you very much, Bengt, for your very inspiring talk today, with your biography and with your project, of which we can just look upon with great respect and understanding, try to understand and try to take elements of that and integrate them into our ambitions, and maybe together, as you said. So possibly we can have another time again to discuss further on this idea, and hopefully you, my friends, are happy with, if we say, good day, good evening, good morning. Thank you, Sasha, for your translations, and it was very great to have you been and seen here again. Next month, we're still searching for someone to give us a talk of general interest in this framework of International Teachers of Meditation Association. I don't see our CEO, Avner, present here. Maybe he has got things to do, but seems to be my role today to say goodbye and say Jai Gurudev.
Yes, Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
Will this lecture be available to see later? Any recording?
I guess so, because Avner is recording them,
Good.
and all lectures have been recorded.
Yes.
What has not been recorded is the last Saturday lecture for teachers only. This
Yeah,
was
I missed most of Bank's presentation today. I was initiating some new meditators this morning and joined as soon as I could. So I'm hoping that the recording will be available.
If you ask Avner, you get it.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very
Good to
much.
see everybody.
once more.
Thank you, everyone. Thank
Thank
Jai
you.
Gurudev.
Bye-bye. Jai Gurudev.
you.
Everyone,